Britain's Foreign Secretary has said that the UK could join the US in further airstrikes against Assad's regime in Syria, though no decision has been made yet. Boris Johnson said if a request came, it would be difficult to say no. This comes after Prime Minister Theresa May and other European allies backed President Trump's action. So how is the U.S. president impacting foreign policy across the globe and around the world? Here to discuss is former leader of the UK Independence Party and Fox News contributor Nigel Farage. Nigel, thank you very much for joining us today from London.
Thank you.
So what do you make of the idea that perhaps Great Britain would join the United States if there are more airstrikes against Mr. Assad?
Well, I wouldn't be very keen, and I don't think the British population would be very keen. After all, you know, we've lived through the Iraq war, we've lived through the Libyan war, we've lived through the idea that we change regimes in these countries so that things become better, and actually in many cases we've seen things get worse. So I would personally not be for the British joining in with this.
So you're more a diplomatic guy, and although you've got your Foreign Secretary, your Secretary of State for Foreign and Commonwealth Affairs, Boris Johnson, he called on Russia to end its blind support of Mr. Assad. But you know what? A lot of people have asked that for a while, and nothing's happened.
No, and, you know, Russia is not going to change its policy overnight. That simply isn't going to happen. And Boris Johnson is continuing with what has been British foreign policy now for nearly 2 decades, which is one of constant interventionism in this region, and I'm one of those voices, and I believe actually a majority of the public are saying, let's just think this through. You know, what is the strategy here? If we get rid of Assad, you know, through military action, what comes next? And nobody has answered that question for me.
Yesterday, Theresa May, your Prime Minister, called for a snap election in a number of weeks. Educate us a little bit, Nigel. What is a snap election, and what is she hoping to get out of the deal? OK, well, we normally have general elections once every 5 years or so. But prime ministers traditionally have always had the power, the prerogative, to call an election at a time of their choosing. So she's called this election for June the 8th. It's just 6 weeks away from now. And there's a little bit of work in the House of Commons to get that approved, but it will be. So we're having what we call a snap general election, you know, without much warning. She's doing it because she is 20 points ahead of the Labour Party in the opinion polls. It is simply a massive lead, and she's virtually, unless she does something catastrophically stupid, she is in a completely unassailable position. She will win the election. She will validate her position, because don't forget, she took over from David Cameron. The public never really had a chance to have a say about her. And from a political perspective, I completely understand why she's doing it. Absolutely, because ultimately she hopes to gain more seats in Parliament and then more power as well. Yeah. But what's curious, Nigel, is the fact that before the election on whether or not to exit the EU, she was against it. Now she's for it. The ultimate politician.
Well, I mean, she has been against Brexit for her whole career. You know, yeah. I've appeared and argued with her. I've argued with her on television programmes on this point, and she was a staunch Remainer. She appears to be a convert, and she says she's fighting this general election because she wants to have a strong mandate to negotiate with Brussels. For the moment, the public will believe that. Who knows in a couple of years' time how they'll feel. But she, you know, she gives the impression of being a convert, yes. OK. Well,
what about you, Nigel? You know, people in this country love your commentary. What about over there? Any possibility you might actually dip your toe back into politics?
Well, I'm not sure right now. I'm thinking about it. I've got about another 48 hours to make my decision. I could run for the UK Parliament, but equally, I'm still the leader of a group in the European Parliament. I'm the only Eurosceptic out of 500 million people to have a front row seat in the European Parliament, where ultimately there will be a veto over the Brexit process. So I've got to weigh up, you know, how can I most influence this? Do I do it in the building behind me, or do I do it in the European Parliament? And I'll make that decision probably tomorrow.
All right, well, let us know. Nigel Farage joining us from London. Sir, thank you very much.